Cast your vote now. Who are Liverpool's greatest? This summer, we will be celebrating the very best who have represented the Reds men's team since 1892, producing a comprehensive list of top 100. Now fans can have their say on who takes place in the 100. This sounds like content to me. So yeah, Liverpool have cast votes for the 100 this times 20. Liverpool are trying to find out the 100 greatest to play for the football club. Now, those of you old enough to remember the 100 players who shook the Kop vote, very, very interesting, spark lots of debates. The Liverpool legends either love them or absolutely loathe them, but it should be fun nevertheless. So I have a little look through the website, and there's something that's quite interesting on this. It says, voters should consider an individual's ability, impact, success and legacy during their Liverpool playing career, which I think is unfair on, things like success and legacy. Listen, defining traits of true Liverpool legends. But should we be writing off players just because they didn't win things and didn't leave a lasting legacy? What about Titi Kamara? Hey, he had an impact on me. So what I've done loosely is taken to the notebook, as I often want to do, as regular viewers of this channel will know, and I blitzed out as many Liverpool players who basically have done this off the hip, shot from the hip, from the cuff, and just wrote down, for me, the most influential players on my fandom and my time as a Liverpool fan, which I always count. I count 1989 as the first season, even though I was 6 and I couldn't really tell you any game of football that happened apart from the really pivotal ones. Obviously, there's the heartbreak of Hillsborough, and then there is Liverpool lifting the FA Cup. There is also the heartbreak of us losing the league on the last game to Arsenal at Anfield as well. So I remember obviously the big bits and pieces around that, but I couldn't tell you like the minutiae of what happened in individual games and performances. And even as I grew up, didn't really start to think about football that way until I think the way we've analysed football has changed significantly in the last 10 years alone. So much of this is just vibes and good feelings as well. So anyway, I just wrote out as many players I could think, yeah, him, definitely him. Bit of a fever over a cup of tea in Costa. And I came to 26, 27 names, just really without thinking too much. And then I've had to try and refine it a little bit. So I'm going to present to you, basically halfway into this video, probably not, probably more like a fifth at this point, the 25 most influential players Liverpool ever had on my life as being a Liverpool fan, and then I'm going to use them and I'm going to vote in that vote. It will be but a drop in the bucket, so whether my parameters match up with theirs is largely irrelevant. Maybe this is just shouting into the void, and that's why I'm doing the video. It said, so you can see my choices and go, good choice, or what have you not picked him? Yeah, the internet. So rather than just run straight through the 25, I'll let you know my thought process on all this. So I broke this down into a number of categories. The first one is early days, which is to say when I was very young and Liverpool players were just these sort of abstract concepts of like gods who ran around in red candy kits. Then there is 90s childhood. These are my coming of age football stars. So when I get into senior school, so I go to senior school in 1995, going 11, 10 and 12. And that's when I become obsessed with footy, absolutely obsessed with it, from collecting stickers and knowing players inside and out, and then leading up to through Championship Manager and onto Championship Manager 2, 96, 97 on the PC, which was the absolute it was just it. A proper database across multiple leagues for the very first time in my spare room in my house. Fantastic. So there's those. I've got noughties up to Istanbul, and then late 2000s, and basically this is then running basically from Istanbul up to Klopp, and then you've got the Klopp era. And what I'm probably going to do is not include anyone from like the Premier League winning team of last season, because it's just too soon, unless they were already in the Klopp era. Listen, I don't make the rules. I obviously make the rules, but these are they. If you've got an issue with them, I really can't help you. These are now set in stone, written on paper, and you can't erase biro from paper. So, without further ado, I'll go through those categories first. Really interesting, this one, because counting sort of 89. So I have vague memories of the end of 88. So I remember Liverpool losing the FA Cup final in 88. I had a flag. It was a thing. It said Liverpool FA Cup winners 1988 on it, because that's how they had to do things back then. I guess you just presumed Liverpool were going to win. So yes, I remember that, and I have one of those like weird, is this a memory or is it just something I've amalgamated together? Maybe of like the 86 Cup final, but I'd have been 3. Who cares? The players that really stood out at that time, there were a few. So John Barnes, obviously, he was my cousin's favourite player. Obviously with the number 10, just a stellar football player, and left-footed as well, which is something that always appealed to me. But for me, my first favourite player was Ian Rush. It was my first Liverpool shirt in 89. I had a 9 on the back, and that 9 was for Ian Rush, because again, my cousin loved Barnes, he had 10. I love Rush. I had 9. Beyond that, now there is a bit of an elephant in the room around this stuff, which maybe I'll address at the end of the video. See if you can spot what it is. It's a massive elephant. There's no way you won't be able to get it. But if you've got any guesses as you go along, use the comment section. Bruce Grobbelaar rounds out this section for me. So obviously Brucey he's not the best goalkeeper to ever play for Liverpool. I'm well aware of this. I think above him, there's a few. And I can't talk to you about Elijah Scott. I can't really talk to you about Ray Clements before my time. He is the first for me, and that's part of the importance of this. My first experience of what a Liverpool goalie is, and did. So yeah, Brucey was it. I remember doing a talk in school, probably in senior school again, about goalkeeping. I became a goalkeeper a few years into the 90s, and because him and David James were the Liverpool goalkeepers, and he's the one I grew up with, I did a talk about his save in the 1986 FA Cup final, and it's one of the ones where he chases back from the edge of the 18-yard box and tips over the bar, and I think it's the greatest save of all time. I think it's up there with Gordon Banks. I think it just is. So anyway, yeah, Brucey makes that early days list because, again, if it was pure nostalgia, and listen, I'm not going pure on nostalgic vibes, because I would be trying in the next one to shoehorn in David James, which I'm not. So we'll move on to the next section. It is 90s childhood. Now, I fully expected this to be chocker. Absolutely chocker with players, because this was just a seminal time. Now, what I've discovered is how good Liverpool were under Jurgen Klopp has totally reframed how I think about great Liverpool players of the past. So I spent my childhood and then into early adulthood arguing against Man United fans and railing against them and holding up Liverpool players as equivalents to the stars that they had at the time. So, they were talking about their centre-halves, I talk about our centre-halves and goalies and strikers and wingers, absolutely, of course. It's interesting with the 90s because people talk about the class of 92 for Man United, and they talk about Butt, Giggs, Beckham, Neville, etc. The clutch that Liverpool had, I remain convinced to this day, were just as good, if not better, in some departments. They didn't have a player as good as Robbie Fowler in their class of 92. They just didn't. I think Steve McManaman was as good as Ryan Giggs on the opposite flank. And then even things like Rob Jones, I thought obviously injuries robbed him, but I thought he was a better right back than Gary Neville. Jamie Redknapp, a couple of years older than Beckham, but there was nothing that David Beckham could do that Jamie Redknapp couldn't, apart from get on the pitch more. So anyway, whatever. The ones I've gone with from this, and there is some crossover. So as an example, Rush and Barnes continue into this year, and that's when I really grow to sort of love them more because I see more of them, but it is the tail end of their careers. So fresh to this list, obviously, Robbie Fowler has to be the ultimate 90s Liverpool icon. Remains my favourite Liverpool player ever. Again, just an absolute goal machine, scouse. So when you're coming up in this city, just being able to go him, like, oh my God, just like it's just that extra thing. Being able to sort of see yourself in a hero, I think makes a huge difference. It's like why my blonde-haired, blue-eyed son adores Chris Evans as Captain America, because why wouldn't you? I took my wife to watch the first Wonder Woman film, and she walked out doing high kicks. Seeing Robbie Fowler play football for Liverpool was that he inspired you to want to go to the park and kick a football around, and made you dream that it was possible for you to play for your boyhood club. So that, and all the great stuff and the celebrations, and of course the goals, so many amazing goals. Adored him, obviously. Now, controversial pick for some, Steve McManaman is going in there because of that time, not because he left Liverpool on a free transfer and then, went on and had a really good career at Real Madrid, and then basically that was it. Yes, he comes back to Manchester City, but he's kind of done once he leaves Real. Very Gareth Bale-like, except he didn't give it all up for golf. Yeah, Steve McManaman goes in because all you've got to do, go back and watch some of the best games from the 90s, and Maych is just all over them. He's so good. Obviously started as a wing, and I remember the FA Cup final in '92, my first cup final, put a cross in for the goal in that one, and that was him sort of coming through. But just year on year, got better and better and better and better. Stunning footballer, and there's a reason why he ends up being a staple of the Galacticos Real Madrid team. A team that has Roberto Carlos and Zidane and Raul and stuff in it, because he's dead good. So yeah, I'm prepared to discount the way it ended and go with the peak of McManaman. And similarly, sort of, but differently, Jamie Redknapp. Oh my God. I mean, obviously not a Scouser. He was in Bournemouth originally, obviously the son of Harry Redknapp. Terrific. Nailed that. Said that perfectly. Harry Redknapp. Terrific. Whatever. Great. Loved him as well. Beautiful man as well, by the way. Beautiful man. And seeing him, I've recently went back and rewatched Liverpool's famous 4-3 games against Newcastle, and at the time we maligned the midfield of Barnes and Redknapp, but my God, that midfield now would just dominate the Premier League completely. Just sensational. And Redknapp, he's good in the first one, the better of the games, but actually he's better in the 4-3, the second 4-3 in 97, where we go 3-0 up and then collapse and then get it back late on. He's just everywhere. He's got the floppy brown hair, and he's just picking passes out left, right and centre. Fabulous footballer. Again, a career robbed, cut short of because of injuries. He couldn't quite get to the ceiling that he should have reached. So there you go. They're the ones that have got through from my 90s childhood. I mean, like I loved Øyvind Leonardsen just because I enjoy that thing that the Norwegians do. Filled notebooks with that. There were a bunch of players, Nick Barmby very briefly, although I think he crosses over into the 2000s era, to be fair. But yeah, they're the ones that I've gone through from 90s childhood. Next. So this is up to and including, so this is the treble team, the intervening years, and then winning the Champions League in 2005 in Istanbul. Michael Owen, yeah, I know, similar to McManaman stuff, but what obviously worse, because he ultimately goes on and plays for Man United. He's not held in high esteem by people who lived through that. I still harbour a major grudge over that, and actually for two reasons. Because in terms of what Liverpool had to go through, there's a theory I have that, like, when you have kids, all of your sort of regrets from the life you had before that go away, because what you realise is every decision you ever made led you to the point of having that child, and the odds of that being your child, of the myriad millions of possibilities that it could have been, means that you have to discount everything that went before, because that was what it took to make that miracle happen, bring that person into your life. And I feel that way about Istanbul as well. And so Michael Owen had to do all the things he did so that Liverpool had the team, the 11, all the perfect circumstances. It is very end game. Like, there was one reality that led to Liverpool lifting that European Cup, so everything that happened in it had to happen in it. But leaving for £8 million when he should have been a world record transfer at the time, that really stuck in my craw. And the fact that he didn't then stick to his guns and fight his way back out of Madrid to come to Liverpool, and instead just kind of bottled it because it was an international tournament year, a World Cup year in fact, and ends up at Newcastle, and then ultimately Man United, whatever. But my God, Michael Owen, 97, 98, leading up to France 98, just having this kid is something special. We'd seen him do it the season before against Wimbledon, I think that's the last game of the season, but you get a little glimpse of him. Fowler's not fit to start the season. Karl-Heinz Riedler comes in and we start the season against Wimbledon and he's brilliant and he's just off to the races from minute one in that season. He's crazy, gets sent off at Old Trafford for snapping Ronnie Johnson. Just, you know, like he had a bit of edge to him as well, which you'd never know to listen to him talk or be a pundit or whatever, but he had fire in his belly, which again, weirdly we love for a boy from Chester. It was very much a sort of time and place. I think if you grew up and you were a kid, a teenager, maybe into your early 20s when Owen burst onto the scene for Liverpool, it was really difficult to overlook that stuff. So Michael Owen absolutely has to go in. That treble season in particular, think about Roma away and things like that, just great. Jamie Carragher comes in here, of course he does. Another one that it's just great to see a player where you just really get a sense of like, feeling like he represents you on the pitch, which for a former Blue was a big achievement. I mean, technically all of Liverpool's greats at that time were former Evertonians, Robbie Fowler, Steve McManaman as well, whatever. Adore Jamie Carragher. It was funny because how he kind of comes to our attention is we go big on Christian Ziege at left back. Like basically Liverpool get like accused of like tapping up and all this kind of stuff. It's really, really grim. They get Ziege and he's just not good. He's not good. And we'd had a little bit of issue with left back. Dominic Matteo had done a left back job and then Jamie Carragher ends up as it. And he's really good. He's really good at left back and then eventually obviously he earns his place from like being a DM to then being a left back and then earns his place as centre half and makes his name as a centre half. Fantastic. But yeah, you don't need to be told about Jamie Carragher. One of the best to do for Liverpool, one of the best defenders we've ever had, and I think the best pundit on telly as well. But does that colour it? Yes, it does. Steven Gerrard has to come in here, obviously. As much as Robbie Fowler is my favourite Liverpool player of all time, it's just that thing of like it's fixed in my mind because that was like, it's like how our baby bird imprints on its mother, or the other way around. Fowler was imprinted forever, and so Gerrard could never usurp him because he came first. But Gerrard is exactly the same thing that I said about Robbie Fowler just a few years later. I remember watching him coming on against Celta Vigo, his goal against Sheffield Wednesday, again coming into that game and being able to do that like straight off the bat, you go, God, what a player we've got. And obviously all the heroics that sort of followed. His exploits are like the soundtrack to my life, going from 17 to sort of 24, 25, and actually really into doing Red Men TV as well, because he was still the biggest player, the biggest star when we started making content in 2010. So, you know, he was always the one that we were chasing down because, God, Steven Gerrard. Yeah, stunning. And again, ultimately, Istanbul. Ridiculous. Sami Hyypiä goes in here. He's one of the interesting ones about sort of reframing players that have gone as we go along. There's Virgil van Dijk to come. There has to be. And I think Virgil redefined just what the best of the best centre halves could look like. Sami Hyypiä is the closest thing we had to that in that period when Manchester United were churning through great centre halves. He was like there's our one. You know, we picked him up for absolute buttons from I think Willem, and he was great in the partnership with Stefan Oncho. There was a temptation to chuck Marcus Babel in here. I think a lack of space has sort of held me back ultimately. But yeah, Sami Hyypiä has to be enshrined in this one for just his role, you know, club captain, showing us. We just had a terrible centre halves through the 90s. Terrible. Just bought, you know, lads who was weighing up to scratch time and time again. And then Hyypiä comes in, you go, right, that's what it looks like. So yeah, him. Okay, let's do late 2000s up to Klopp. Fernando Torres, obviously, just again, just you buy a player. Now sometimes Liverpool buy, and particularly later, more recently, Liverpool have bought players like sort of based on data and based on, like this like sixth sense intuition where you're getting players who are a little bit, well, Moneyball's the word, isn't it? Where they're not quite as obvious on the eye, but they do the numbers on the pitch. Torres was just one of those perfect purchases where he looked the business and he was the business. And injuries are another thing that kind of meant we never quite got to see him consistently do it over the length of time that we really would have liked. But my God, there was a time when he played for us, and I think about him scoring against Inter Milan, and I think about him scoring against goals against, scoring his first goal against Chelsea. I was at Anfield for that one when he skins Tal Ben Haim or Ben Tal Haim, whatever, skins him. skins him in slots. I saw him get booted in the air by John Terry and just reach up and pat Terry on the cheek. Like, don't worry, mate. I know what you're trying to do. It's because you're not as good as me. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. He was the best striker in the world when we had him. And actually, our love for him and a few other players around that, obviously with the Spanish lilt, meant that it was a great sense of sort of additional ownership around Spain's Euros win in 2008 and the World Cup win in 2010 as well. The Fernando Torres really sort of pioneered, you know, that they made an advert about him.
Gracias, mate.
Just great, loved him. An odd pick, but one I'm chucking in, maybe not everyone will agree with this one. I'm putting Javier Mascherano in this one because, wow, like it's so rare because Football Manager and then Football Manager was so ubiquitous in our lives around this time that everyone who played Footy Manager knew about Mascherano and Tevez, and you would just try and pick them up as a pair, and because they were almost a cheat code. And then West Ham got them, and it was like, wow, okay, they've done it. Are these any good? And they just couldn't quite get it to work, and just, it's mad. Absolutely mad when you consider what follows. And look, Tevez did okay, keeps them up, and then obviously moves on, and then he has to get embroidered in the whole Manchester thing. But Mascherano, Liverpool get him on basically like on loan at first, and you're like, again, were we wrong about this? Was Footy Manager wrong? No, it wasn't. It took him a little bit of time to just kind of get up to fitness and speed, but almost from minute one, you're like, yeah. We talk a lot about like Liverpool teams like at times missing like steel. This is the kind of lad who just, you know, he maybe wake up one morning a bit tired and he go around the corner shop for a pint of milk or whatever. His wife just goes, go and get the milk. And as he's doing, like, kids are playing footy and the ball bobbles, and I just, like, if it was running towards a car, he'd just run over in his slippers and slide tackle it to get it away from the car. That's he just born to win the football for his team. Incredible. And I always talk about it. I've never rewatched this, or maybe this is just something that exists in my, like a nostalgized sort of pedestal style memory in my brain of him playing against Kaká in the 2007 Champions League final and tackling him and coming out with the ball, and you're like, there was your big test, and you passed it with flying colours. What a player. And again, leaves like a bit of a bell end, if we're being honest, but then makes up because they beat Manchester United. Barcelona beat Manchester United in the Champions League final, and he dedicated it to Liverpool fans.
Liverpool supporters are a little bit, maybe after my exit, they were a little bit sad with me, but this is for them as well.
Thank you.
Right, cool. Similar, Luis Suarez. Fowler's my favourite player. Gerrard's in there, of course, but I still contend that the greatest, most talented footballer I've ever witnessed in a Liverpool shirt is Luis Suarez. Just ridiculous. Just played football on a different level to anyone else, and there was no real reason for it. So I've seen faster players. I've seen players with a neater touch. I've seen players who've got a greater range of passing. I've seen more natural finishes. I've taller players. All these things. There was just nothing about Luis Suarez that, you know, that when you looked at him should have made him as good as he is. But he had this burning fury inside him, which come out in many, many negative ways throughout his career. Kind of coming to our attention during the World Cup. Is it against Ghana when he punches the ball off the line and then they miss the penalty and he celebrates and everyone was like, what a villain. And I was like, oh my God, what a fucking legend. What an absolute legend. No time for like honour. No time for like being a nice guy. He's just in it to win it. And it meant he crossed the line a million times in his career. And yeah, you know, crossed the line by burning his bridges with Liverpool fans, by celebrating in front of us in the new camp in 2019 in the Champions League semi-final. We got him back by chanting fuck off Suarez and then knocked him out. And I'm feeling the most famous Champions League game of all time. So cool, but a bit shortly lived. You know, he did have the greatest individual Premier League season, goal scoring season until Salah and Haaland, but he did that having missed the start of the season, having bitten Branislav Ivanovic the season before. What could have been if he just had one more full season for us, we'll never know. But Liverpool collapsed without him and took us years to get back. But again, like anything, it builds towards the Jurgen Klopp era, so maybe him going is all part of the rich tapestry that could only have led to the one situation where Jurgen Klopp takes over. So yeah, we'll give him that. Additionally around this, I and ahed about one more of these. Pepe Reina is nailed on. because of the goalkeeper thing. I went from Bruce Grobbelaar, watched David James and Brad Friedel and Sander Westerveld and Jerzy Dudek, and they all had the moments and they were all quite good at different stages. And then Pepe Reina came in and I was like, yeah, that. Dominant of his box, punched, became a modern sort of iteration, because he kind of had that, looked a bit like that at the time. Goalies changed. So you had your Iker Casillas and your Shea Givens and your Fabian Barthez, where smaller goalkeepers but much more agile goalkeepers were a thing. Brucey was a bit of that in the 80s, to be fair, but like Schmeichel was just a big complete goalkeeper. Van der Sar was a lanky goalkeeper. Buffon, tall goalkeeper. Pepe was sort of somewhere in between, the perfect amalgamation that made him, I think, the perfect Premier League goalkeeper at the time. Quite tall without being dead tall, agile without being too small. Again, aggressive. His punching technique was out of this world, and massive character as well. He was very, very lovable. So yeah, I adored Pepe Reina, and I wish again he could have stayed with us for longer than he did. The last one I'm going to put in brackets is Xabi Alonso, because I think fabulous player. Loved his ability to use small spaces. His first touch would always take him into somewhere you wanted the football game to be played. So fabulous for that. I think he's remembered probably more better than his actual Liverpool career was. But look, he's integral to that win in Istanbul. And he was a stunning, stunning footballer. So Xabi will make it onto the list tentatively. I might have to revisit that, but for now, that's fine. So, Klopp era. This kind of picks itself, and the problem with this is that I almost want to pick every player that played in that era. So Alisson Becker, best goalie for me ever to play for Liverpool, and in his time, and still persists to be the best goalkeeper in the world. And I haven't been able to say that at any point during my time as a Liverpool fan, that we've got the best goalie in the world apart from Alisson. So nailed on. Virgil van Dijk, exactly the same. Best defender in the Premier League, best defender in the country, best defender in Europe. I think the best defender ever to play the game. He's right up there with in Liverpool terms, up there with Alan Hansen, which is to say best of the best of the best. So yeah, magic. And got even better. Even though he's older, and post-Cruciate rebuild, becoming captain has made him even better as well. So yeah, Virgil van Dijk. Ridiculous. Jordan Henderson. So for what he was, what he did, the ride that he went on from being like one of Liverpool's Damien Comolli sort of attempted Moneyball signings, and it just didn't look like it was going to work out for him, to be on the cusp of a move out the door to Fulham, to end up being the first Liverpool captain to lift the Premier League trophy, and not just by it wasn't something he found in a cereal box. He earned his right to be there. He led that team. He was the emissary of Jurgen Klopp on the pitch. The team was built around Jordan Henderson, even though it was built around Salah and Mane and Firmino. In so many ways it was, but actually the structure that knitted it all together was Jordan Henderson. And, going back before that to the Suarez, Gerrard, Brendan Rodgers 13-14 team, he's everywhere. You go back and watch the highlights of any of the best games of that season, and Jordan Henderson is all over them. So yeah, fantastic, brilliant captain for Liverpool. And look, goes in there, he was an absolute nailed on one for me. That Andy Robertson. Okay, one of my, it's so hard to say who my favourite player was through this era, because I think they all are, but Andy Robertson, brilliant. Again, for us to say, I think we had the best left back in world football for a long spell of that, with Andy Robertson in there. Broke the assist record for a defender during that time as well, before it was obviously taken on by Trent. Great. James Milner, love him. Absolutely love him. And what again, while there have been players who scored more goals and got more assists and maybe were more technically gifted, the total package that was James Milner, every football club needs a James Milner in there. Liverpool today are sorely lacking a James Milner in there. I thought he was magic that whole season at left back, because he was told to, and he was really good at it as well. Still holds the record for the most assists in a single Champions League campaign, which is one of those things people go, huh? Yeah, better than Neymar, and all of those kind of ilk as well. So great. Bobby Firmino has to be in years to come, it's the kind of player you tell your grandkids about and go, oh my God, the way that my dad talks about certain players of his generation, Bobby Firmino will be the one. Sadio Mane is one of those where I keep saying his name. I need to keep talking about Sadio because he's in danger of becoming just an eras player where I kind of, you had to be there one, like a Barnes, like a Michael Owen, like a Steve McManaman, which is fine. But yeah, lest we forget that Sadio Mane was sensational. Obviously, Mohamed Salah, I could do a whole video on Mohamed Salah. Of course, you know it, I know it. He's going on the Mount Rushmore of Premier League footballers. He has to, for his impact that he's had on this league and Liverpool, drag Liverpool by his sheer output to so many of the trophies and the big wins over the years. So, of course, Mo Salah. And there's a couple of reasonably controversial picks. Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course. Look, if I'm putting Michael Owen and Steve McManaman in, there's no world where Trent doesn't go in this. Totally redefine the right back role. I don't know whether it will work out for him for the rest of his career. In part of me, I hope it does, because I think it will help to cement just how good he was at Liverpool. He should be held up alongside the Dani Alves and Cafus of the greatest right backs ever to play the game. Time will tell on that. But for what he did at Liverpool, again, unbelievable. Just an unbelievably gifted footballer and a scouser and all of that as well. So yeah, brill. The last one is a pure preference pick. It is Thiago Alcantara. Chef's kiss of a footballer. Didn't do anything for us really, did he? Other than turn up, look brilliant, score that goal where no one can still tell whether it hit the ground or not. But just fabulous. Just the kind of footballer where people go to you, why do you pay money to watch football? And you just go, Thiago, and you just hold him up like a hologram, like Princess Leia coming out of R2-D2, and you just be like, that would be a picture of Thiago floating there. I don't know if I can do that in graphics, probably can't. Yeah, great. Very good indeed. Now, let me just double check my math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you go. Boom. There's my 25 that I'm going to be voting for. Let me know yours in the comments section underneath. And who is the elephant in the room who've I missed? Now, there's tons. Like Ian Callaghan will be in there. He should be in there. Never saw him play. So I've just gone this on my pure time of watching footballers play. You know who it is, right? And I mean, the idea that Michael Owen, Steve McManaman and Trent Alexander-Arnold could be in and not, you know. But I've tried to do it on the ones because he was a manager and he gave me different things. And I went on stage with him and did Family Fortunes with him and his family. And he's amazing. And he's perhaps the greatest human ever to be associated with Liverpool, but he's not in my top 25 players. Because I just didn't, I've seen the videos. It was just a couple of seasons too late. You know, if I'd been born 3 years earlier, I'd have probably had a 7 on the back of my first shirt. It probably would have been like 85, 86, and it would have been nailed up. But anyway, it is what it is. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Who have I missed? Who are the 5 players for you that absolutely have to be nailed on in your vote? The ones that are a no-brainer, non-negotiable. If you want to extend that to 10, do that. Again, in the comments, drop a like, subscribe, and thank you to everyone who's ordered my book so far. My dad's book, which is just over my shoulder there, The Man Who Stole the World Cup, is now available to order again. So The Eternal Flame and The Man Who Stole the World Cup. So if you want to have, look, the weather's getting better, optimism's return, and you can start to think about the beach or the back garden. So if you need your beach reads, head to magepublishing.com and give both of the books a try. I think you'll really, really like them. I am biased, but I'm also hopefully not so stupid that I just think something's crap's good. I think they are genuinely really good, and I think you will too. Thank you so much for watching. See you all soon. Ta-ra.